passion that you spend your money on. That England shirt that cost £90 for the match. This is on the chef, Adam Smith from Leeds. 5 years ago, Adam said the only way that he could get through his shifts at work was by taking drugs. But after what can only be called an epiphany whilst travelling in Australia, he now runs his own company and cafe based in Armley, using discarded food from other restaurants and let customers pay what they feel they can afford and what they feel the meal is worth in his cafe. It's part of his wider community company called the Real Junk Food Project, and I'm really pleased to say that Adam joins us now. Morning to you, Adam.
Morning, Johnny.
So I guess the best place to start is where this idea came from. Take us back to Australia, what you were doing over there, and how you had this moment.
So me and my partner Johanna, we was travelling around Australia. We was working on farms, and we saw food waste on an astronomical level. There was no way for farmers to discard that food that was being kind of cancelled by supermarkets at last minute, all their produce. So we asked the farmers, we said, look, what happens to this produce? Why are the people who need it not getting access to this food? And they turned around and said, look, we're not a charity, we're a business, we don't have the logistics and money involved in getting this money to them. And we realised that there was a kind of a niche in the market where somebody needed to get this food from its source to the people that needed it most. And literally just off the top of my head, I said, let's call ourselves the Real Junk Food Project. We was going to Melbourne. They said, let's go to Melbourne. Let's literally go on the barbecues in the streets. Let's just get people to come and bring us food. Let's cook it and let's people just eat it for free.
So this was still while you were travelling? I mean,
this is still while we're travelling,
yeah. You're just meant to enjoy yourself, see places. You're not going to start businesses when you travel.
You go travelling to meet people and see new things. And because of what we were doing, we were cooking on the streets, and we were getting to meet new people. And I worked in a restaurant at the time, and the restaurant was helping me out. So we was working, and when I wasn't actually at work, we was out on the streets cooking for people.
Just giving food away?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, for free.
What were people? Did people think you were kind of trying to sell them something? This was a savvy marketing ploy.
I was in probably one of the best cities in the world. I think it got voted best city in the world like 4 years in a row.
This is Melbourne.
This is in Melbourne, and there was people walking past saying no to me because they were in a position where they didn't need the food.
Really?
But it was a great base for us to set up the Real Junk Food Project.
Did you have them mostly people who were on the streets or on hard times?
Well, any excess food that we had from people, just feeding people and trying to get the message across about what we was doing and creating the awareness about the waste food, we just literally went and walked around the streets, and we had like big issue sellers and homeless people. We just give the food out to them, and they had no idea who we were, but we just went and fed them a meal.
So how did you get the farms then to? How did you get the fruit and the veg and the food?
We just went around everyone. I sent like nearly 5,000 emails out in the space of a week to people, just saying, look, this is who I am, this is what I want to do, can you help me out? And literally in Melbourne, it was such a relaxed, friendly attitude that people were just turning up in vans.
Really?
Just giving me their excess produce from the shops. It was absolutely amazing.
And then being a chef, you were just going, right, well, I've got this, I've got that.
Yeah, exactly. And it was even better for me because I'm not like confined to like set menus or recipes or anything. I would just get in I'm a vegetarian and I'm gluten free as well, so it was great just to like make meals that anybody could eat using fresh produce.
Did the authorities respond in any way? Did the councils have anything to say about this?
No, in Australia it was like if you had more than 50 people around a barbecue, you needed a permit. So we just counted 50 people, moved them to one side, and had another bunch of people.
Really?
Yeah, it was that easy. We got around it quite easily.
So why were you in Australia then? What took you there?
I was on a working holiday visa with my partner. We went over there to pretty much stay there for the rest of our lives, but we were travelling around, and then we had to work on a farm in order to extend our visas. And so whilst we're on that farm, we were seeing a ton of courgettes being delivered per week to feed pigs.
Really?
And we was eating the same food as the pigs because it was that fresh. It literally just come straight out of the ground. And we was like, why on earth is this food here? And the pigs are eating it. After a week of sat in the sun, we were still grating it for salads. And, it was still that fresh. And then we realised that was a huge problem. I saw a ton of vanilla. I saw a ton of apricots every day. Just being going past in vans and lorries, getting shipped to certain farms, just being fed to livestock and ploughed back into the ground.
And you were in Australia because you had issues with drugs back in England. Did you go to sort of get clean or get away from the scene
It wasn't
over
just,
here?
I didn't have an issue with drugs. I had a lot of other issues. I had a lot of problems as a child and as a teenager as well. I was always doing stupid things. I was never a bad person, but I was always doing really stupid stuff. I mean, I ended up in some really bad situations, and the drugs were just kind of to get through it more than anything. It didn't seem like a problem at the time, but yeah, I was dependent on drugs to get through shifts at work, just to get through life really.
What kind of drugs are we talking about?
Everything.
Really?
Except for heroin, that's the only thing I've never taken. Right. But other than that, yeah, we were doing like obviously most of the street drugs that are out there.
Cocaine, ecstasy.
Of course, yeah, pretty much anything we could get our hands on at the time. I mean, I wasn't a drug user as such. I wasn't a druggie as such, but it was like I was doing it probably like 2 or 3 times a day.
2 or 3 times a day?
Yeah, we was doing it just to get through shifts, and it was just like it was just a kind of a social thing more than anything. But we was doing it as a kind of just just to get through our shifts. And
What were you doing? Where were you working? Not obviously, don't name the place.
No.
But what was your job?
I was a chef. I've been a chef.
It doesn't sound safe being a chef and having to do drugs to get through your shift.
No, it's not. But in some places where you work in restaurants, and I'm sure a lot of chefs out there will know this, like working especially in line kitchens, for example, you could leave your brain at home and come in and just, it's second nature to you, and it's in your subconscious. You can just knock out. We were knocking out 800 to 1,000 people a day, and we were doing it better on these substances because we didn't have to think about what we was doing, and it was kind of that mundane job just to get through. And unfortunately we had to use drugs, and I was around that kind of social group of people that after work we'd go out and we'd drink and we'd use drugs, and I became heavily dependent on it before I went to Australia.
And so did you have that moment of realisation that, because any right thinking person says I shouldn't be doing drugs to get through my shift.
Of course.
But when you get into that lifestyle and that mindset, they take something quite big, or that real moment. We've already mentioned the word epiphany about the business. There takes that moment where you think, God, this isn't right. I shouldn't be in a kitchen working.
It was just about doing the right thing, Johnny. It was like, I went down to Australia. I've been doing stupid stuff for nearly 25 years. I mean, I had problems from when I was like 9, 10 years old. I went into care homes when I was younger. I mean, I had some serious problems with my family. A lot of it was me, self-inflicted. And I just went away and it was like, I need to start doing the right thing. I was never a bad person. I was always just doing stupid stuff. That's what I needed to try and get across to people.
When you say, and I don't want to pry if you don't want to talk about it, but we're talking crime. What do you
crime? I ended up in prison. I ended up in Hull prison for 72 days because I had a weapon in my bag. It was around about the time when they had the knife amnesty, so I was used as an example because of what I basically just had a 12-inch blade in my bag. Got arrested. I was intoxicated. Couldn't answer the questions properly, so I was put on remand and I was left there for 10 weeks instead of 3 weeks. So I spent a long time in Hull prison. And I mean, I was in care homes. I was in mental institutions when I was younger on Prozac. I went through a lot of problems as a child, and a lot of family problems as well. And it was just always an excuse, use drugs, drink and stuff. I was using it as because it was social, but really it was just kind of to disguise and get away from the fact that I was having personal problems in my life with my family. A
lot of people use the cliche fresh start, but it sounds like Australia was about that.
Yeah, Australia was just a chance it was more of a chance to run away from Leeds because I hated my life and the memories that I created around Leeds, and so it was just a chance to get away. My partner Joey decided that she'd come with me. We went over there, and obviously I wasn't going to do drugs or drink while I was out there because we couldn't really, we couldn't afford to do it even if we wanted to do it. It was just in that situation where we couldn't do it.
Did you have a physical dependency though at that point? Did you have to go through a kind of enforced detox?
No, I just stopped.
Right.
It was just as simple as stopping. Yeah. And I decided to stop, fly to Australia and work. I mean, when you're out in the sunshine on the beach all day, the last thing on your mind is going out and getting drunk and taking drugs, for example. And we were both working quite hard. We went out there, we worked straight away. We didn't take much money with us, so we had to work pretty much straight away. So I was doing quite long shifts. And I didn't want to give out the bad impression by being dependent on drugs, alcohol while I was out there. I wanted to make a good impression. I wanted to stay there. I wanted to get my citizenship out there. So the last thing I wanted to do was screw things up by doing something stupid.
So you start this really positive project, the junk food, the real junk food project.
The real junk food project, yeah.
You have your life set out there, but then all of a sudden, unexpectedly, you're going to be a dad. Which
my girlfriend Joanna fell pregnant in Melbourne, and then she came home a bit earlier. I stayed out there to earn a bit more money so we could come back with a bit more money. The real junk food project still existed. We created a database and network while I was out there, but then I came back home and then decided that I was going to create a community interest company, and that was in December the 10th last year. And then since then we got an opportunity to start this Page Reveal Cafe, and it was basically just taking over a cafe which was being kind of mismanaged by another charity. We have a kitchen which was underutilised, and I said I'll come in there and I'll have a Page Reveal Cafe using waste food, and we'll just split everything that we make 50-50 with the charity and with my community interest company, because obviously I don't make any money out of this. I don't take a wage or anything out of it. And since then it's just grown and grown and grown, and to the point where now we've actually acquired the entire building. We're looking to actually buy it as well. So
how does it work? And people come in, order a meal, and just say and pay what they think it's worth.
So it's we're registered as a food bank because we intercept so much food. It's not just restaurants we get food from. We get food from supermarkets. We work with the vegan community. We get things from obviously very, very large chain restaurants. We get things from people's houses. We've had examples of one of our volunteers that works there. She knew somebody that had passed away, and his entire house was full of tin food.
Right.
So they just brought the tin food down to the cafe. We now use it as a food bank. There was an example of Leeds City Council contacted us and said that somebody was hoarding food in their house, and they halved the amount of food in his house and asked us if we come and collect it, and we ended up with nearly a ton of food.
Wow.
Just in tins that he was hoarding in his house, and that was only half of the food he had in his house. So we get people just walking in with shopping bags going, I can't afford to pay for food, would you take this food instead and make a meal out of it and feed me and feed the other people with that food? So it's not about the money whatsoever. We don't care about the money.
Yeah.
The pay-as-you-feel concept is about giving the people opportunity to have access to healthy meals. That's all it's about.
And do you have a menu then, or is it just what's there, and is there a recommended price?
We got a piece of chipboard from a skip, and then we found some blackboard paint from a friend who just donated it to us, and we created a blackboard menu, and each day it's completely different, and it's whatever's in the actual cafe at the time. Sometimes it might just be as simple as mashed potato with a bit of gravy and maybe some fruit salad. It's exactly what we have, but you can ask us, and we'll try our best to cook for you whatever we've got. But because of the donations that we receive, I mean, we work with one of the largest chain restaurants in the world, and they donate their produce to us once a week. I'm going there after today actually to go collect some produce from them, and the produce that they give us will easily set us out for an entire week. We can feed people just for a week just from that one restaurant's produce.
And so people do pay though, do they?
People do pay. People pay too much in
but
my
it's
eyes.
just what they want, what they
people
feel
don't
it's
pay
worth.
as well. People come. It's not about the money. Like, we do not care, because there are people that come in that cafe that cannot afford to pay for the food, and so it's all about the actual access to this food, but also providing education at the same time, telling people why this was waste food, what to do with this waste food, and then go home and then create what we've done in the cafe. So there's also a hatch in the kitchen where you can come and stand and watch us cooking,
right? So
that people can actually see how we're doing it. And look, because I've got like 8-10 years as a chef, it's irrelevant. We literally just get some vegetables, some garlic, some onions, some herbs, throw it into a pan, make a meal out of it, feed the people and say, look how simple it was, look how quick it was. You can do that at home as well with the same produce.
What a fantastic idea. And you're kind of hoping to branch into education. You've got a guerrilla gardening project as well.
Yeah, we've got urban guerrilla gardening, so all the food waste never makes it to landfill. It all goes into composting, and then we're doing urban guerrilla garden projects where we're going to create vegetables, herbs, trees, for example, around the local community, so that people have got free access to healthy produce. And then we'll also incorporate that back into the cafe, so we can literally say the waste that came from this cafe was used to grow this produce, which is then made it into this cafe, which then makes it to your plate, and it's all completely on a pay-as-you-feel basis. We don't want to say free, because we don't want people queuing up thinking they're going to get free food. It's pay-as-you-feel. Whatever you think it's worth, you pay. If you can't pay, don't worry about it. There's no emphasis on payment in this cafe whatsoever.
That's a great idea. It really is. And considering where you come from in terms of your life experience and what you've gone through as well, I think that's absolutely fantastic. Really nice to meet you. Thank you so much for coming in. And it's open today, the cafe, if people want to
We open from 9 and we shut when the last person leaves.
You're a good man.
Thank you.
Generous. Adam Smith from the Pay-as-you-feel Cafe in Armley, Leeds, and as part of the wider community company, the Real Junk Food Project, there today's real life story on BBC Radio Leeds. Adam, really nice to meet you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Postman. Ever since